During the month of February, we pay tribute to the generations of African Americans who faced adversity and recognized their triumphs as well as their struggles throughout U.S. history. Often in our study of Black history, many folks have been overlooked. We all know the names Harriet Tubman and Booker T. Washington and Barack Obama. However, there are many more African Americans that have contributed to our nation in so many different ways. People like Madam C.J. Walker, who was America's first self-made female millionaire who developed hair products for African Americans. George Washington Carver, who derived nearly 300 products from peanuts. Thurgood Marshall, who was the first African American to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. Without Lewis Latimer, light bulbs wouldn't last this long, and Alexander Graham Bell may not have ever developed the telephone. Garrett Morgan, who invented the early version of the gas mask, as well as traffic signals. These are hugely important contributions to our everyday life. We would also be remiss if we didn't recognize some contributions to the medical profession. Daniel Hale Williams performed the first open heart surgery, which is also the first time the chest cavity was opened without the patient dying of an infection. Dr. Charles Drew invented the technique for long-term preservation of blood plasma, recognizing that everybody's plasma is the same, thus allowing us to this day to transfuse plasma into any patient. These contributions have not been thoroughly vetted through our history books, but can be recognized through events like this to bring not only individuals of the white population or other minority populations into focus of these events, but also to remind African Americans of their history, to help them have more value in understanding that they have contributed to this nation in quite positive ways. I think those are the unique things that drives people's value and belief in their self-esteem. In conclusion, I just want to summarize that the month of February calls on each of us to evaluate where our country and each of us personally are in acknowledging racial biases that persist in our country. It's often the most difficult thing for us to do because it requires some introspection and some self-awareness that many of us are unsure if we want to face. But I will implore you to use this opportunity to do just that and not focus on the negatives, but instead focus on the opportunities for you to get to know something about your family history. And your family history is American history. And of that American history, Black Americans have been a part and continue to represent themselves well in the growth of our society.